but Koa Peat was the star in Vegas tonight. And Koa Peat's a guy who, you and I covered high school basketball for a long time and both worked in the Arizona State program, and Koa Peat was priority target. We were both working Koa Peat's official visit there. So we're familiar with the name, but when you've had three incoming freshmen really dominate that discussion with Darren Peterson, AJ DeBansta, and Cam Boozer, all incredibly talented players. This freshman class is unbelievable. But Koa Pete was a guy who I think was flying under the radar a bit. And he also too was a guy who was very highly regarded as a recruit. But you talked to a lot of scouts, and I don't think anybody expected him to. Nobody expected him to score 30 in his debut. Like it was he would progress. He might. I mean, you had scouts saying that there was a decent chance he would take a second year in school, potentially just giving he had areas to work on. And to be quite honest with you, none of their criticisms of him were immediately proven wrong tonight. A lot of the questions were about his jump shot, about his outside scoring, like how would that impact him? And he didn't need to score on the outside tonight. He was physically dominant, which you don't see a lot as a 18-year-old kid. Goes out there and looks like maybe the biggest guy on the floor. This is he's not playing, a mid-major team. He's playing the defending champs, Florida, and to look like that, looks like a linebacker out there just with his build. But to the way he was able to maneuver around the paint, some fadeaways, solid post game, just a soft touch to pair with that just explosiveness and size. And it was Florida couldn't stop it. He had 30 on 11 of 18 shooting, 7 boards and 5 assists to go with it. I think the only part of his game that you could say was a flaw tonight was that free throw shooting, but he did manage to hit a couple of clutch ones late when they needed him. So he was the star of the show, backed by Jaden Bradley, who also was incredible. 27 points, a guy who doesn't get talked about very much, as Tommy Lloyd said in their post game TNT interview, but he's super talented, and so to see Arizona handle business like that, I picked them going into it, but this was a game where I thought they both felt very even. Could go fast forward in a month, and Florida's in a very different place, but Tommy Lloyd had his team ready. They have a good balance of players between returners and then newcomers, and they took care of business in a place that they're familiar with winning in.
Oh yeah, Michaela North, you could definitely hear those U of A chants,
Yeah,
PTSD from those. But yeah, I thought like you said, Koa Pete looked really impressive just from a physical standpoint. Like you said, we're not talking about like Northern Arizona or something like that. We're talking about like Florida, the defending champions, a team that like where I think one of their biggest strengths, if not their biggest strength, is like their front court. You
mm-hmm.
know, Hauk, Chenaloo, um, Hanglerden, and then
Yep.
Condon. So yeah, I mean, he looked like not even a freshman, not even like this is his first game of his career.
Yeah, I mean, Florida has, Bruce Pearl after in their studio show said Florida has the best front court in the country. No, nobody comes to mind to necessarily dethrone them in that regard, and I don't. And my mind hasn't changed after tonight. Their bigs still play. I mean, Thomas Howell had 27. Handel Hagen had a double double. I mean, they didn't play poorly, and it was just more so like Koa Pete was able to finish, amongst the trees, still compete down low with that established front court, and to do that in his debut as a freshman, against SEC athletes in size and championship level size was very impressive. I thought Arizona was going to win. I didn't think Koa Pete was going to have 30. I didn't think Koa Pete was. I was going to be. I would probably say he was going to have like under 15. I thought Koa Pete was going to take time. I thought he was going to be kind of a role player this year. And obviously this is one game, and that could still be the case. But nothing he showed tonight has showed, like it wasn't like a guy got hot and he was scoring from all over the place, hitting, making jumpers he's not normally going to or anything like that. Like everything was controlled in the flow of the game. There was a reason why he was so efficient. And there was nothing to really stand out as like, oh, he's not going to be able to do that consistently. He's not going to be able to do that against Kansas or Tech or whoever they're playing. You know, he did it against Florida and made it look easy.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure.